Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Those of you who are here, those of you who are online, this is a really, really amazing opportunity, not just during this time, but even if it wasn't during a time when Israel is at war, to meet Alon Ben-Gurion, the grandson of the first Prime Minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, the name that you hear when you land in the land of Israel. Welcome to Ben Gurion Airport. That has to sound really special every time you land, right? Yeah. But to have him here doesn't happen without help. And it happens because of our very special partnership with JNF USA, Jewish National Fund, who really brings positive Zionism not just to Los Angeles, but to the world. And so first we're going to hear a few words from the Executive Director of JNF USA of the West Coast, Lou Rosenberg, who is a good friend of Sinai Temple. Lou.
Do I need the mic?
Yeah, because online, you're talking to more people.
Should I stand up? First of all, Erez, not the West Coast, just Greater Los Angeles. But thanks for giving me more responsibility. And thank you for your partnership with JNF and to the Sinai community. Thank you. I usually like to speak off the cuff, but I'm just going to read you guys some things because honestly, I didn't know what to say today. I wish I wasn't here. We're all suffering. We all have connections to Israel. We all know people that are suffering like us. And I just got to thank everyone for your unprecedented outpouring of love and affection for our state of Israel, our homeland. And the fact that we are living in this type of situation, is very difficult. The needs are endless and they're coming from everywhere. It's a ripple down effect of what is happening in Israel, things that we would necessarily not even think of. Every community has absorbed evacuees from the southern part of, I'm calling it the Western Negev now. I will no longer refer to it as the Gaza border or the Eshkol region. And what I mean by a trickle-down effect is, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Our goal when I first joined JNF 11 years ago was to make the desert bloom, to fulfill the wishes of Alon's grandfather, David Ben-Gurion. And we've established many communities in that area. The city of Sderot, which has been in the news quite a bit, before this even happened, they've experienced something like 20,000 rockets coming into their area. They have 15 seconds to seek shelter. 15 seconds, a siren goes off. There were 40,000 residents in Sderot on October 6th. Today, there's only about 8,000. The ones that are still there cannot leave, maybe due to health reasons, or refuse to leave because they want to protect themselves. But where did those other 30,000 plus people go to? We have moved them to the central Arava. Is anyone familiar with the central Arava of Israel? It's the area that borders with Jordan. That area is primarily a farming community. Maybe 5,000 people live there full time. The area has almost tripled in residents right now. There are people living in Dead Sea hotels, in Eilat hotels. They're living in glamping sites at Timna National Park. They're living on kibbutzes. They're living on moshavs. This is what we've done. And these people are not coming home next week. They're not coming home in 2 weeks. So what do we do for kids who would normally be in school all day? Basic necessities. You know, people left. They left with the clothes on their back. Basic toiletries. Everyday items. This is what we are doing to fill it in. Another important part is that we have volunteers that are stepping up on their own to protect communities that surround this Western Negev area. Because you know why? The army is busy somewhere else. The police are busy somewhere else. Civil defense is busy somewhere else. Farmers, you know, this is harvest season. Farmers have left their orchards because they're not being taken care of. So there's going to be, and there's starting to be, a food crisis in Israel. This is normally when we're picking fruits and vegetables in the south and in the north. What about therapy for adults and kids? PTSD, when this is over, can you imagine what our brothers and sisters are going to be going through? I know this is hurting for everybody, and I want to read you something that Michael Oren, the ambassador, told us on our daily briefing the other day. And this comes from a resident of the area. I visited 2 families today, one whose son is a hostage and one who doesn't even know where their son is. Then I went to pay a Shiva call. The pain and distress these families, and I would say the entire country is in, is unspeakable. That is why we are doing what we are doing. And I need you to continue doing what you're doing. You know what we need to do? We need to raise our voice. I have no doubt that we are going to win the battle on the field, but we're losing the PR war, big time. Reach out to your congressmen, your senators. There's a website that we could share that you could send directly to them. Lead and galvanize others. Talk positively. Promote whatever you can about Israel. Create your own fundraising page to help support. We need to stand up, and this is obvious, stand up to anti-Semitism. Post, as I said, post and share this on social media. Support small businesses and send message of thanks to families and soldiers who you know. And the one way that we are able to help our brothers and sisters in Israel is with our checkbook. And I know you've been asked for donations over the last couple weeks, but you know what? I'm going to ask you again. I have 2 of my colleagues here, Lauren Cohn and Eva Katz. We have pledge cards. If you would like to make a donation, I don't care if it's $18, $1,800, everything counts, because we are faced with a crisis of moving people and keeping our brothers and sisters who lived in this area. They are now out of place. Imagine if you had to leave your home in an instant, what would you need? So please, if you're interested to support us, that's all I ask. Give from your heart. I thank you so much for allowing us to be here today, and I will now turn it back to Rabbi Sherman. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. And every bar mitzvah and bar mitzvah Sinai Temple, as we always say, when you get your gifts, actually 2 trees have been planted on behalf of JNF USA. And that's just a little part that we do at Sinai Temple to begin your relationship with Sinai as well. We're honored to have our 8th grade class here as well from Sinai Keep Academy, as well as our Judaic Studies teachers. We are literally hearing and meeting history. So I'm going to turn it over to Alon Ben-Gurion, the grandson of the first prime minister of the state of Israel, David Ben-Gurion. Alon Ben-Gurion, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alon. When we plan this tour, my speech usually goes for 40 minutes. But as you are, I work for the rabbi. So we decided to change because things also changed. Our life changed on the 7th of October. So what I'm going to do, and I've got someone who's taking time so I don't talk too much, I'm going to run through a couple of things for 15 minutes, and then we're going to open it to questions and answers. I want you to ask questions. This is not about Alon Ben-Gurion. This is about us. Lou spoke about PTSD. You're looking at someone who has got it for 50 years from the war of Yom Kippur. So don't worry, we know to answer the questions. Okay? So that's the game plan of what we're going to do now. David Ben-Gurion said, Israel was not created in order to disappear. Israel will endure and flourish. It is the child of hope and the hope of the brave. It can neither be broken by adversity nor demoralized by success. It carries the shield of democracy and it honors the sword of freedom. I'm going to go through 3 events. 2 of them we know the end. The 3rd one we don't know the end. But the 2 started bad, but we win. Always remember, we do win. 14 of May 1948. At 4:30 in the afternoon, David Ben-Gurion stands there and declares the state of Israel after 2,000 years. During that time, a couple of hours before that, he got the message that Gush Etzion, which exists now, fell to the Arab Legion. There was a massacre of 137 Jews. They didn't have a chance. They surrendered, their hands up, they shot them all. He also knew that if he's going to declare the state of Israel, 7 Arab countries are going to attack him. Not Hamas, not Hezbollah, 7 countries. Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq too had troops there. Number two, at that time, we didn't have the support of America. We didn't have aircraft carriers there. What we had is George Marshall, the Secretary of State of the United States, calling the guy and the person on the right of David Ben-Gurion with the mustache and telling him, tell your boss not to create the state of Israel because we will not support you. Number three, in that room there's 37 people of the government. 12 people did not believe that Ben-Gurion has got to declare the state of Israel. Why? Because they were afraid that the Israel Defense Forces, which was not created at this moment, will not be able to withstand them. Ben-Gurion, before this meeting, takes his top two generals, Yigal Allon and Yigal Yadin, and says to them, gentlemen, we are going to have a war if I declare the state of Israel. What are the chances from 0 to 100 that we will prevail? They said to him, 50-50. He said, it's great. Let's do it. The rest is history. October 6, 1973, at 1:58, 1 million Arab soldiers attacked Israel. The Egyptian army in Syria. They caught us with our pants down, literally. The amount of casualties, and I can hear in my ears till now, and the communication channels, they're slaughtering us, they're slaughtering us. Help, but there's no help, because there's no army. We had to build the army. There is many reasons for what happened in Yom Kippur. And the same thing, there's many reasons for what happened in Gaza. But this is not the time to go and find out who's to blame, who is responsible. This is the time to be together. What created Yom Kippur? One of the things that created Yom Kippur was our great victory in 1967. It went to our head. In 6 days, we managed to beat 3 armies. Everybody was proud of the Israeli army. Unfortunately, we were too much proud of what happened. And we forgot, we took our eyes off the ball. Because we always said, the Arabs can't beat us. Because Egypt or Syria will not go to war unless they'll get an air superiority. Number two, they will never go to war alone. Well, guess what? Sadat decided from day one, when I go to war, I don't need air superiority. I'll bend the Israeli Air Force with a different system. And he was very successful with that. Second of all, he did get his partner. His partner was Syria. Now, we knew everything. That's the famous concept of Israel. We knew everything that is happening. We saw everything. But we were asleep because they said we did not believe it's going to happen. 400 brave Israeli soldiers sat in the Suez Canal. At 1:58, 100,000 Egyptian soldiers attacked them. What do you want them to do? They came for screaming for their mothers and fathers. Didn't help them much. Half of them were killed, half of them were taken prisoners. But we prevailed. 16 days later, this is the situation. We are standing 35 kilometers, in your terms, it's 20 miles, from Damascus, and there's no Syrian army to stop us. We are standing 101 kilometers from Cairo, and there's not one Egyptian tank between us and them. And then we stopped the war. It was the greatest thing we ever did. If you ask my colleagues, the Israelis, they're pissed off till today. Why did we stop the war? Because we could have had a victory. If you ever saw the movie of Golda, she says, I'll slaughter them all. We had the entire Egyptian army under our thumb, but we stopped. If you ask the Egyptians today who won the war, they'll say to you that they did. If you ask the Israelis who won the war, the Israelis will tell you they did. That is what in life is called win-win situation. 1978, we had peace, and we've got peace till today. So, from a failure to victory. Now we come to October 7. You see the television, you work for the television, right? You read the newspapers, you don't need me to tell you what's happening. You saw it all. But what I want is to take 2 minutes of your time, because I'm not so sure that you all know one thing, and that is facts. So I'm going to share with you this map, because I want you to know what are we dealing with. Because if I'll ask everybody in this room, who is Gaza, I don't think you'll be able to tell me. This is Gaza. What you see here is Gaza. This is the borders. This is 25 miles. This is 6 miles. This is the main city of Gaza. This is additional city. This is Rafah. This is Egypt. This is where the supplies are coming in now. The attack was all over the villages here. That's where the massacre was. The amount of people in Gaza is 2.3 million people. The amount of people that were in Gaza in 1948 was 1.4. Israel in 1948 had 600,000 people. Today there's 9 million people, 9.7. So that's what they are. I'm not getting into the politics. I'm not a politician. But this is where we stand in today, just that you get the facts. This is the line that the Israeli army told the Palestinians who live here to move south, to move down. This is the line. Beit Lahir is empty. Beit Hanun is empty. Jabalia is a refugee camp. This is here. The red here is Shati. Shati is a fisherman's village. This is the main city. This is where you hear a lot, and you're going to hear a lot about it, is the Shifa Hospital. We never attacked the Shifa Hospital. Underneath Shifa Hospital is the headquarters of the Hamas. The only way to get to there is walk in there. There's nothing else. I'm not going to tell you what's happening. I don't know. So this is where the battle is. And we're going to give questions, so you can ask me whatever you want. I've got a lot of questions on myself. I don't have the answers. I've got to be honest with you. I don't think anybody's got the answers. But in this time, when we are a little bit down, afraid, we fear what happens in the universities, what happens in the schools, what can we say, what we cannot say. I need you to walk tall. And I'm going to end with what Ben-Gurion said. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. We need to be Am Segula. That's what he said. And in order to get what does Am Segula mean? Am Segula in Hebrew means a nation of a higher virtue. And I'm going to read to you because it's more important that you'll hear what he said and not what Alon says. Our historic yearnings has been for a new society built on liberty, equality, tolerance, mutual aid, and love for men. A society without exploitations and discrimination, slavery or tyranny. Our stance in the world will not be determined by our supposed material wealth, nor by our military might, but by the moral light of our understandings. And although there are some shadows, among them heavy shadows in our lives now, we can have the grounds to believe that we can be an example nation. Example nation also is in a wartime. We will be defined what we do from now moving on. So I want to thank you. And if you've got any questions, 15 minutes, okay? Did I go? Yeah, okay. 13, wow.
So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I want to make sure the students, if they have questions before they also have to leave, have an opportunity, and then we can stay as well. So Alon, I want to ask you first, what does it mean to be the grandson of the first prime minister of Israel? Because your grandfather wasn't even born in Israel, as David Green in Poland. And the second part of that is, what would he be saying today? Which you probably have been asking yourself, or a lot of people have been asking you today, based on the War of Independence and right now this War of Survival?
Question number one. What is it to go as the grandson of David Ben-Gurion? I had a very normal life. We don't have in Israel at that time, I grew up with the state. I'm old now, as you can see. Israel celebrated 75. I'm not that old, but close. Normal life means nobody cares. I always tell people, none of my friends cared that my grandfather is the Prime Minister of Israel. What they did care is how good I'm in soccer. Now, I want to tell you something. If I was not good at soccer, the fact that he's the Prime Minister wouldn't help me, because you don't get on the team because your grandfather is the Prime Minister. You get on the team because you know to kick the ball. So that's how I grew up. We grew up without television. You've got television. Few papers, radio we used. So I had a great childhood. I read a lot. I love history books. I read a lot. I played a lot. I didn't study a lot. I didn't get any privileges. Actually, when I went to the army, I went to the paratroopers. Some of my commanders, sergeants, used to kick my rear end. Oh, you're the grandson of Ben-Gurion. Okay, let's see what you can do. It's okay, it's okay. You know, you take it with a smile. So that's for the first question. The second question, I can't answer. This is the most probably the number one question that I'm being asked if Ben-Gurion was alive today. I don't deal with politics. We all have got convictions about left-wing, right-wing, Democrats, Republicans. A lot of us make opinions about things based on our party loyalty. I don't get into that. Because if I'll say what I think he would say, it's going to hurt someone. And I'm not in the business to hurt. This is not the issue. Ben-Gurion passed away 50 years ago. By the way, we're supposed to have his memorial, commemorate his life on the 19th of November in Sde Boker. I don't think it's going to happen because we're going to have a war. But it doesn't matter. I can't answer that question. And I don't want to answer that question. But let's go to the next one then.
When you speak about Am Segula, and you said that we are going to be defined of how we, as the state of Israel, act going forward. In the United States, and you live part of your time in New York, and you're looking at the last few days on the college campus, how do our children, our future graduates of this day school, who next year might be in Jewish schools, might be in schools that are not Jewish, public, private, how do they carry that Am Segula action-based into what they've learned here at a Jewish day school into the next step of their lives?
You asked the question in 22 seconds, and the answer is about 2 hours. First of all, what's going on the campuses is not new. BDS is not new. We've got it for years. It'll get worse. Every war, it gets worse. We are still on the good side of society. But 2 weeks have passed. We talk about the massacre. The world is talking about other things. Guys, it's not going to be better for us in the public view, on the social media, in the newspaper, in the television. You have got to stand up to it. In my time in the wars, we didn't have all this, the flow of this information that you have got today. The thing is, and I know it takes training, but you've got to separate between facts and interpretation. What are facts? Facts is 2 rockets were sent to Tel Aviv. The Iron Dome intercepted them. That is a fact. But when a general of the American army is sitting and starting to interpret the rockets, the quantity, the angle they came, close your ears. It's nonsense. Ben-Gurion said, all the experts are experts in the past. There's no experts in the future. There is nobody today that can tell me what is going to happen. We hear a lot. Guys, I was in the Yom Kippur War. When the radios were open, the communication system of the army was open. We heard a lot of things. I'm being slaughtered, I'm being killed, and this, I need help, I need this and this. It doesn't stop. It'll drive you crazy. I've got to focus. I've got 60 Egyptian soldiers in front of me. I've got to kill them. That's the mission of my platoon. Not all the nonsense around us. Not what is happening 800 miles away from me because I can't control it. I've got to do my part, and that is win this battle. So we've got to win this part here in America. And it's much more difficult for you than the people who are standing in Israel, because we're all connected there. Israelis love WhatsApp. Everybody's on WhatsApp in Israel. Try to send an email, nobody answers you. Send a WhatsApp, they'll get an answer in the middle of the night. They sleep with the freaking thing on this. I get WhatsApp from the morning till the night. There's no night here. The thing is, you've got to stand tall. I'm going already to tell you, unfortunately, I'm not a messenger of bad news. I'm usually a very optimistic person. I'm very optimistic now. I know our capabilities. There's a tremendous price for what we're going to do. Tremendous price. And it's irrelevant what we're going to happen. I'm not going to talk about it. I don't know anything. Let's put it this way. But the thing is, I know how wars start. We never know how it ends. So we as the Jewish community, we have got to be strong. And how do we get strong about it? I'll tell you how we get strong, is we are united together, like we are trying to do and be in Israel. There's no left and right. There's no Likud, Labor, whatever you call it. We are together. There is no religious or Chilonim standing here. Why aren't you going to the army? Why you are going to the army? Nobody cares about it. We need to be together because we need to support. We've got to support 224 people kidnapped, over 30 kids, over 20 seniors. I'm sure you all saw the lady who came back, 85 years old. Come on. Which kind of a war are we handling here? We're done with savages. That's what we are. Unfortunately, it is. You can't erase it. But what is the date today? Lou, what is the date to date? 26. What happened to Israel was on the 7th. We are in 26. You know what happens to the world? The memory goes bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. What are they talking now? Fuel to the hospitals. Palestinians. You are not going to change it. Don't fight with it. We need to flow with the flow. We've got a mission. The Israeli government will decide. The Israeli army will decide. We will prevail. That's what we've got to remember. We will prevail. We will win. There's no other choice. Put it in your head and go to sleep with it. You'll see terrible pictures. You'll hear noise. You'll hear rage. Forget about the noise. All what you have to remember, that guy, the old guy, he said we are going to win. Keep that. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask SAA crew if they have a question first. Great. Let's use the microphone so that people at home can hear you as well. Malena? And then we'll pass it down.
I know it's a terrible thing that there are people in the universities and in the streets that are saying that Israel does not have a right to exist and that we are the bad guys in this situation. And I just wanted to know what you have to say about them or to them.
About the what?
To the people, yeah.
What do you say to the people that say we're the bad guys?
Do you know, I am going to be 72 years old. All my life I was told that I'm the bad guy. When I was in the army, I was told I'm a bad guy. When I was in the hotel business over several continents, I was told that we're the bad guys. I live to be the bad guy. You want to be a good guy? Doesn't happen. Nobody likes us. Nobody likes us. I always said, you heard the speech at the United Nations of the head of the United Nations. Okay. I just said to someone today, I said to the guys, you all remember that a month or 2 months ago, there was terrible wildfires in Canada. And the smoke came to the northeast and covered everything. If the United Nations would call for a resolution that the Jews will be responsible for the fires in Canada, it will pass. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to pass because they've got a majority there. 52 or 57 of the members there are Arab countries. It's political decisions, guys. Don't weaken yourself because someone doesn't like you. I know that you all want to be liked. Be liked by your parents. Be liked by your friends. Don't ask the world to like you. It's not going to work, unfortunately, through my life. we have got to make sure the following, that we stay on course. I'll give you an example, what is right and what is wrong. The BBC in England, that's the main outlet. One of the presenters there, she said that Israel is going to be accused of war crimes because they're committing war crimes. Well, she had an expert who was a lawyer, and his expertise is on war crimes. And he said to her, right on the television, right on BBC, he said to her, lady, Israel is not doing war crimes. There's no war crimes by Israel till so far. The Hamas did war crimes. She says, I didn't know. So if you don't know, don't be an anchor, for God's sake. Give the right information. Do your homework. The same thing I'm telling to you. You know, when you start to have doubts, when we start to have doubts about our existence, we've got to learn who we are. And I'm not going to get a lecture here. Why do we have the right to Israel? Why do we, as Jews in America, have got to support Israel? Why Jews around the world? There is a bond that you cannot untie. So I'm not trying to make friends in the world. I just know that what we are doing is right. And if I'm going to do a mistake, it's wrong. In the last war, we bombed the building of Al Jazeera, CNN, and all these buildings in Gaza. We made a mistake. And we came out, we said we made a mistake. Nobody was hurt because we had a system there that we wanted people to get out. We made a mistake. But look what happened with the rocket. The jihadi Islamic rocket fell on the hospital in Gaza. All the world, every network said it's the Israelis. Based on what? Because Hamas said so. Oh, Hamas is now the legitimate power in the world. Give me a break. They just massacred kids there. These are the people. No, we're not going to be friends with everybody. I can't satisfy anybody who wants to be friends with everybody. We're going to live like that, and we're going to be very proud of it. Any other questions? Please.
Do you have any memories that stood out to you with your grandpa?
Oh, a lot. How many days have you got? If I've got any memories of my grandfather.
That really stood out to you.
How many days have you got? I'll give you an answer. Yes. Since we are talking about this, Ben-Gurion, David Ben-Gurion had a small book. What's your name? Elon. Ben-Gurion had a small book like this, a black book. In it was the names of all the grandchildren of David Ben-Gurion, all his grandchildren and children. When came his birthday, he used to call up. At that time we had this phone. You don't know because you all have got cellular phones. There used to be a line phone. You have to pick it up. It's connected to the wall. So he called, my mother picked it up and says, Alon, Saba is calling. How do you call your grandfather? Huh? Baba. We called him Saba. Okay, Baba, Saba, Bobo, doesn't matter. Saba is on the phone, I take the phone. So Saba says to me, Alon, it's your birthday today. I said, yes, I know. What do you want for your birthday? 12 years old, you ask a child at the age of 12 years old, I can give you a list. Woohoo! Not to Ben-Gurion. Saba, I want a book. Oh, wonderful answer. Wonderful answer. That's the only answer. After 12 years I've got already on him. What kind of a book? I was always loved history books. I told you I was not a good student, but I loved books and loved history. What books you want? I said, at that time I was interested in Rome, the Roman Empire. So I said, Roman Empire. He said, great. The next day I get the box. There's 10 books in it. I called him up. I said, Saba, I got the books. Thank you very much. Of course, I told you I grew up without television. I read all the books. Birthday's over, right? Saba called, sent you a present. You said thank you. We move on. Not with Ben-Gurion. 3 months later, we go to visit Saba in his house in Sde-Boker in the south. I'm coming out of his office. He was not in his office. There was nobody. I thought there's nobody in the house. Suddenly he comes. Now, David Ben-Gurion was 5 feet tall. Small. I was 12. I was maybe 5'1". So I walk, suddenly he stands in front of me. He says, Alon, did you read the books? I said to him, yes. So tell me, Alon, what do you think, who do you think is the greatest military leader at that time? I'm 12 years old. How old are you? Almost 14. I'm 12. So imagine someone asks you that question. I wanted to answer him. I didn't finish university. Why are you asking me that question? But I was polite. It's Saba. So I said to him, Hannibal the Great. And I thought, it's over because he asked a question. I gave an answer. Duh. No, it's not. He looks at me and he says to me, very interesting, Alon. Now let me tell you why Hannibal the Great was one of the biggest military leaders. For the next 28 minutes, he gives a speech, a monologue. He looks at me like I'm looking at you. His eyes are burning, and he's giving a speech. But it's not a speech to a child. It's like he's giving a speech standing in Congress and give it a speech to the nation. I couldn't believe it. And he goes through details. The more he spoke, the more my mouth opened with unbelief. How do I know that? And how do I know it's 28 minutes? I didn't have a watch. We didn't have watches at that time. But unbeknown to me, my father was in the kitchen. So he saw all the interactions. So he's watching. And then he finished to talk. He passes me, goes to his office, and I'm standing. So my father says, Alon, yes, come here. I'll go to him. He says, so what do you think? About, I said, what? About what Saba told you. So you know what my answer was? Was this for real? But every time there was an interaction between me and my grandfather, or my grandfather with other kids, with the other children, it was always, he was talking to them like he's talking to adults. It was amazing. It's an experiences that you cannot forget. And it's not once he did it to me. He did it to me several times and many other things too. So, does that answer? Okay, other questions, if we've got time. Yes, sir.
I have another question about your grandfather, not about Alon. He's one single person who made a major transformation in the lives of the Jews throughout the centuries. Did he ever tell you what one incident inspired him to become such a Zionist and think about the need to create a state?
Great question. Great question. David Ben-Gurion was born in 1886. We are in 2023. That's not last century, the previous century. He was born in Poland. In Poland, the Jews spoke Yiddish. At the age of 3, Ben-Gurion spoke fluent Hebrew. Fluent Hebrew at the age of 3. Shimon Peres later asked him a question, what took you so long? I asked him a question. At what stage in your life did you come and decide that you want to build a state? Just think about it. If Lou comes to me now and says, you know what? I love my life in America, but I'm going to build a state. If Lou will make a statement like this, you'll all say to him, it's a little cuckoo. We'll send him to the speaker's corner in London. There's a lot of these people who say that. So I said to him, what, you wake up in the morning and decide to build a country? He says, no. So I said, what was it? He says, when I had questions and nobody could give me the answers, that's when I decided that we've got to build the state of Israel. Now you've got to understand, I showed you a picture of the 14th of May, 1948. The state of Israel did not start there. The state of Israel started in 1906, 40 years before that. He started with that. He started to build it slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly with all the system in place. And he had You know, history judges leaders. Not alone, not you. History judges all leaders. And unfortunately, you cannot do comparisons between leaders because every media outlet or every researcher does it. Who is the best prime minister? Who is the best president in America? Who is the worst president in America? Everyone wants to know who is the best and who is the worst. Because that's how we live. Who is the best team in the NFL? Who is the best basketball? That is how we work. Everybody will agree one thing. David Ben-Gurion was the only one who had a strategy for the state of Israel. In 1906, he knew exactly what he's going to do in 1948, exactly what's going to happen in 1935. He had the vision of what he's got. Ever since then, all our leaders, and I'm not getting to right or left, they dealt with tactical decisions. What have I got to do between today and tomorrow? How do I need to win this war in Hamas? Well, let's think about the second thing. What do we do in the day after? Does anybody got an answer? We don't have the answers, they don't have the answers. When United States went to Iraq, they knew they're going to defeat the army of Iraq, but nobody asked the question, what do we do the next day? Then the problem starts. So from his perspective, he had a strategy of what he wants to do. Does that answer a little bit?
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, please.
Ben-Gurion's vision was the importance of developing the Negev for the future of Israel, and I'm curious to know how you are helping to fulfill that vision, given now 50 years after his death, it's still quite a struggle.
I'm not doing it. Who is doing it? I just have him do it. It's delegating. Tell him what you're doing.
Blueprint Negev, it's been one of our top priorities over the last 11 years since I've been at JNF and started before then. The goal is to move 500,000 residents from central Israel down to the south. And the reason being is that if you take the corridor of Haifa, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, which is so overcrowded, rent is more per square foot in Tel Aviv than it is in New York City. We need to move people south. But what comes with that? You can't just tell someone to pick up and move to Gavat Bar, Zukim, Ofakim, go to the Central Arva. You've got to give them proper housing, which we're doing, education opportunities, infrastructure. What about medical care? When I joined JNF 11 years ago, I couldn't believe this. There was not one hospital between Eilat and Beersheba. Women had to prepare to give birth, or they were giving birth on the side of the road. I have a very good friend who has passed away. His son collapsed in an Eilat hotel. Luckily, they had a respirator. They had to air helicopter him to Beersheba while the father drove with his son for 4 hours, not knowing if his son was alive, because there wasn't a medical clinic down in Eilat that could handle this. So when we are encouraging people to move, and we've moved so far, we're about 50% of our goal. We're giving them every reason to go there. Arts and entertainment, restaurants. As I said before, medical, job opportunities. We've opened up the Ronald Lauder Employment Center in Beersheba, and also up north. Because the north, after we started this program, raised their hand and said, hey, what about us? All the old kibbutzes and the moshavs back in the area. We have property too. Bring us back the residents. So that's what JNF is doing. We're fulfilling Alon's grandfather's dream of building the South, reestablishing the North, and this is what we do every day, 24/7.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, you know, I'll tell you the story. First of all, he always had the Negev in this. I've got here the order to the Israeli army to capture the Negev. It was not an option. He said he called the Negev in 1948. He called the Negev cradle of Israel. It's 60% of the state of Israel land-wise. It was then, it is today. In 1952, he drove through the Negev. He saw 2 tents, big tents, on the side of the road, and young people, boys and girls at the age of 24, 25, standing there and working. So he told the drivers, stop aside, I want to talk to them. So he came out, you couldn't miss the little man, you know, with his white hair. So they stopped working. Immediately they brought them water because, you know, it's 100 and something degrees in the Negev. And he says to them, what are you doing here? So they said, we fought here in the War of Independence, and we decided to build a kibbutz here. So he looked at them and he said, you're building what, a kibbutz? There's nothing here. There's stones, there is sand dunes, there's snakes, there's nothing here. Oh, we are going to change God's creation. That's what they answered him. We are going to turn it to green. We are going to plow the land. He was fascinated. This was his dream from when he came to Eretz Israel during the Ottoman Empire. Jewish kibbutz in the middle of nowhere, fulfilling the dream of the Negev. So he sits there and immediately asks them the question, tell me something. If one of your parents wanted to come here and join you, what would you give him to work? So they looked at him and laughed and said, our parents? They're living happily, fat and happy in Haifa and Tel Aviv. They're not to come here. There's nothing here. He asked again. He answered the same question, going back and forth. And then they got fed up with him. And they said to him, we'll find something for him. He said, great answer. Let's go back home. He goes home, has dinner with Paula. Paula is Savta. And he says to Savta, Paula, we are going to Sde Boker. She looks at him and says, we are going where? Sde Boker. Where is Sde Boker? In the Negev. Oh. And what are we going to do there? We are going to change God's creation. What these young people told them. We are going to plow the ground. We are putting plants. We'll have animals there. We'll build a kibbutz. And what are you going to do? He says, that's what I'm going to do. She says, but you are the prime minister. You're the minister of defense. Oh, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to plow the ground. She says, are you mad? You're the most powerful Jew in the world. It's 1953. You just established a state. You bring the Jews in. There's so much things to do, and you're just leaving and gallivanting and going down to the Negev to plow the ground? He said, yes. And she says, when it's happening? Tomorrow. It took a couple of more days. He was very happy there. He was very happy there. But again, it lasted a very short time. And then he was called back, and he was the prime minister and minister of defense till 1963. But that's now, I asked him the question. Forget what you said to Savta Paula. Tell me the real reasons why you left. He says 2 reasons. 3 reasons. Number 1, I was tired. He said, I am building this country from 1906. Isn't one day in my life that I stopped. So that's number 1. Number 2, I became in a situation where I'm a very powerful person. That's very dangerous because everybody comes to ask me what to do. He says, I need to give the reins to the new generation. That's what he said. New leadership have got to come and carry it on, not me. So that's what he said. Number 3, he made a call for years to people to go and settle in the Negev. But nobody listened. So he said, if I will resign as prime minister and go personally there and sacrifice my life to live there, maybe people will come. Those are the 3 reasons. Did he fulfill them? As I say, babkes. But you know what? It's a vision. Lead by example. You had a vision. Now, I can't compare Negev today to what it was when he moved there. I was a little infant there then. It has changed a lot. JNF is leading there. There's a lot of good things are happening there. Unfortunately, we've got a setback because of what is happening there. The area that surrounds the Gaza, the kibbutzim, are responsible for 60% of all the fruits and vegetables in Israel. There is no fruits and vegetables there. 60%. Do you understand that? Can you imagine that you go to buy for cucumber and there's no cucumber in the supermarket? So we've got to remember, most of the eggs of Israel, they come from the Galilee. There's nobody to take care of the chickens now. Well, there's no eggs. What Lou said, that there is going to be a crisis of food, absolutely. But, I like to hear. I love this duck, quack, 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 quack. We love quacks. So, yes, these are the obstacles, but we'll get over it. We will survive, we stand tall. That's why he wanted the Negev. That's why the Negev is so important. Everybody wants to live in Tel Aviv. He hated that. He hated big cities. He says, I like cities which have got 5,000 people. Why? Because we can get more intimate. We know each other. We know the neighborhoods. What do we need? Big Tel Aviv. Everybody wants to live in Tel Aviv. Let's have 500 little villages, little cities. So we'll be intimate. It's much nicer. That's his mind. Tell it to the young people who live in Tel Aviv today. Okay.
Alon, let's come to today. Shekel now is 4.08. Beginning of last year was 3.25. Most of my staff in our nonprofit, the men are called either south or north. What is going to be, we have to think about tomorrow. What is it going to be with the economy? When we started doing projects in Israel 17 years ago, there was poverty, and we are moving again towards that. And you're not politicians, so answer from a citizen of Israel.
Okay. First of all, there's a price for a war. There's a price for a war in Israel. The Israeli army is based on 80%, 85% of reserve and 15% of regular army. Regular army is okay to survive Israel, to keep Israel in place until the reserves are called. But there's a price for reserve army because they're leaving their jobs. Hotels, there's no business. Restaurants, there's no business. A lot of businesses, like you go boom, 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 they're gone. The government, when you go to Miluim, to reserve, the government has got to pay your salary. But we drafted just 350,000. Our army is doubled in that, by the way, just that you know. It might ratchet up if we need it. So the thing is, it's going to cost more. Now, was the erosion in Israeli economy, and I know about the shekel very, very well. I'm watching it. The erosion in the shekel did not start in the war. The erosion started because of other things. And I told you there's two things I don't speak about. Politics, Israeli politics and American politics, and you're pulling me into the Israeli politics. So Lou doesn't allow me to talk politics today, so I'm going to stop there. There will be, you saw what Moody did, you see what is the credit ratings that do it to Israel. They warned Israel before the war. So to put everything on the war, like a lot of people are trying, it's not working. The Israelis are not stupid. We saw what happened 7 months before the war. There was a process that led to this. By the way, I'm not so sure that if there was no war, maybe the shekel wouldn't go up to the dollar so high, but it was climbing there. I've got the ratings of 7 months what it went up. So let's put it. The thing is, where are we going in the future? That's the thing. We had good times, we had bad times. I grew up in the Tzena, in the 50s. You know what is Tzena? Is when you get rations, food. 1 egg per 4 people for 1 week. You tell me how you eat 1 egg for 4 people in 1 week. Tell you how much bread, how much flour, every week. My mother used to stand in line. There's no refrigerators. We get ice. The guy with the wagon goes with the ice, bang, 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 you get an ice. We had an ice box. That's how we lived there. And we survived. Then we became fat and rich, high tech. The good thing is in high tech is it's all in our head. We know what to do. Some of the high tech left, nothing to do with the war. It all goes to the back, but I'm not getting into politics. The most important thing for us now is not to worry so much about the shekel. It's more important, let's worry about the people that we've got. all those 120,000 people that we removed from Otef, the surrounding of Gaza, into hotels. Who's going to pay their bills? The hotels are not going to suck it up. Someone's got to pay them. You can't just pay them for 2 weeks and then say, well, go back. Where are they going back to? There's nowhere to go back. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. The shekel is going to lose power. If you come from America, you'll be rich. If you're Israeli, you lose. If you've got a pension from Israel in shekels, you turn it to dollars, you lose. But that's life. Now we've got to focus on one thing. Win a war, support the people in Israel, support them not only financially, but mentally too also. The amount of people that we need to deal with after the psychological problems is enormous. Because what happened on the 7th of October is you cannot comprehend. It's very hard for me, who was on the battlefield for years, it's very hard to comprehend what happened there. Who does things like that? How do you recover from that? So let's focus on what's important. It's a great question. Let's finish the war, and then we make a plan how we're going to fix it, if you don't mind.
We want to thank Alon Ben-Gurion for the special opportunity. We want to thank JNF USA for continued partnership here at Sinai Temple and the Sinai Temple Israel Center with Lou Rosenberg, Executive Director of JNF USA in Los Angeles. If you're interested more in finding out about JNF USA, please talk to Lou, please talk to me. They are a consistent partner with us at Sinai Temple in both education and positive Zionism. If you really want to learn more about, please travel to Denver with me in a couple of weeks. We have a delegation going to our JNF USA conference with 20 of our teenagers. And if you want to join our Delta delegation as well, please see me. It's going to be a wonderful time. Michael Oren will be there and lots of things as well. And Lou has one last announcement before we head.
Okay, so we are doing our annual breakfast for Israel. It's a solidarity breakfast for Israel, and your own Gary Feynman, who's part of our JNF Future Division, is a co-chair for the event, and we would love to have you all come out. It's on November 28th. It's early. It's at 7:30 in the morning, but oh yeah, it's complimentary, but we will ask you for money there too. It's at 7:30 in the morning. You'll be out of there by 9 o'clock. So for more information, just seek out your buddy Gary. Beautiful. Thank you, Ars.